I'm going to read you two headlines about the exact same city, from the exact same year, and I want you to try to make them fit together. Headline 1. Wall Street is fleeing New York. Firms stampeding to Florida. A relocation attorney's phone ringing 5 to 10 times more than usual. A Texas mayor predicting an avalanche. Palm Beach literally branding itself Wall Street South. Headline 2. Wall Street is doubling down on New York. The biggest financial firms in the city aren't just renewing leases. They're buying their office towers outright. A 95-story skyscraper going up next to Grand Central. Another tower about to become the tallest office building in the Western Hemisphere. Both of those are real. Same industry, same city, same 12 months. And they completely contradict each other. So somebody's lying, right? That's the natural reaction. One of these has to be the spin, and the other has to be the truth. Except that's the trap. Because neither one is false. The firms leaving are really leaving. And the firms building are really building. And sometimes they're the same firms. The real story isn't which headline is true. It's why both can be and what that actually tells you about what's happening to New York. That's what I want to untangle. I do these because the honest answer usually lives in the space between two headlines that both want to be the whole story. If that's your kind of thing, subscribe and ride along. Here we go. Let me give the Exodus side its full due first because it's not a myth and I'm not going to wave it away. Real firms have made real moves. Wells Fargo announced it's relocating its wealth and investment management division to West Palm Beach, Florida. Cathie Wood's ARK Investment Management left New York for St. Petersburg. Dynasty Financial Partners announced a move to St. Petersburg too. Citadel, Ken Griffin's firm, planted its headquarters in Miami a few years back and never looked back. And the mood shifted hard after the 2025 mayoral election. Florida officials reported a surge in inquiries. One relocation attorney said calls from New York companies jumped 5 to 10 times, with dozens filing to expand or relocate in short order. Boca Raton's mayor openly said he figured a lot of dissatisfied New Yorkers would want out. Palm Beach County leaned all the way into the Wall Street South nickname, and the fiscal picture backs up the worry. New York City's own Economic Development Corporation reported that while thousands of businesses opened, more closed or left, a net loss. Moody's, the credit agency, shifted the city's financial outlook to negative. That's not a tweet. That's a ratings agency putting its concern in writing. So if someone tells you the Exodus is fake news, they're wrong. Money and firms and high earners really are moving south, and the reasons they cite are consistent: taxes, regulation, cost, and lately, unease about the city's political direction. That's the real half. Hold on to it, because the other half is just as real, and that's where it gets strange. Here's the part the Exodus headlines almost never mention. At the same time, all those firms were moving pieces to Florida. Some of the biggest names on Wall Street were making the most permanent commitment to New York real estate you can possibly make. They weren't signing leases. They were buying the buildings. Wells Fargo, yes, the same Wells Fargo moving its wealth unit to West Palm Beach, is among the firms deepening its New York real estate footprint. KKR bought in. Blackstone bought in. When a company buys the tower it works in, that's not a hedge. That's a decade-plus bet on staying. You don't sink that kind of capital into concrete in a city you're fleeing. And look at what's being built. A developer is about to raise the Grand Hyatt next to Grand Central and put up a 95-story office building at a cost of $6.5 billion. $6.5 billion. Another project, 175 Park, is slated to become the tallest office building in the entire Western Hemisphere, already in talks with financial and professional service firms. American Express just built a new headquarters at the World Trade Center. Nobody pours that kind of money into the skyline of a dying financial capital, and the office market data backs it up. Despite every Exodus headline, demand for prime Manhattan office space has actually been strong, not collapsing. So now you've got the paradox in full. Firms leaving, firms buying, sometimes the same firm doing both. And if you only read one of those columns, you walk away with a confident opinion that's exactly half right, which is often worse than knowing nothing. So how does a firm flee New York and double down on New York at the same time? Once you see the mechanism, the whole paradox dissolves, and it's more interesting than either headline. The answer is that the firm isn't one thing anymore. Modern finance companies are made of parts, and the parts have different jobs. There's the client-facing, deal-making, top-of-the-pyramid work. The part that genuinely benefits from being in the room in Manhattan, near the other players, the lawyers, the capital. And then there's everything else. Wealth management, back offices, technology, support, operations. The parts that don't need to be in the most expensive zip code on earth to function. What's actually happening isn't a firm picking New York or Florida. It's a firm splitting itself in two and sending each half where it makes the most sense. The high-margin core stays in Manhattan and even buys the building because that part isn't going anywhere. The cost-sensitive support functions get shipped to West Palm Beach or Dallas, where the same desk costs a fraction, and the employee pays no state income tax. That's why Wells Fargo can move wealth management to Florida and deepen its New York real estate at the same time without contradicting itself at all. It's not indecision. It's a strategy. Keep the crown in the capital, move the back office to the suburbs of the country. And that reframes the whole exodus. It's not New York losing Wall Street. It's New York keeping the most valuable, hardest-to-replace slice of Wall Street, while quietly losing the broad middle-income back-office jobs that used to come attached to it, which, if you think about who those jobs actually belong to, is the part that should worry New York the most. And nobody's putting it on a headline because New York keeps the billionaires and loses the middle doesn't fit either side's story. Let me pull this down to a person, because back-office functions relocating is a phrase designed to make you feel nothing. Picture someone in operations at a financial firm, not a trader, not a partner. The person who makes sure the trades actually settle, who runs the systems, reconciles the accounts, solidly middle class. Bought a house in the outer boroughs or up in Westchester on the strength of that steady finance-adjacent paycheck. Never made a headline in their life. The partners at the top of that firm are staying in Manhattan. They're fine. They might be in the building the firm just bought. But that operations job, the one holding up a middle-class life, is exactly the kind of role that just got a memo saying the team is consolidating in West Palm Beach or Dallas. And now the choice is theirs. Uproot the family and follow the job to a state you've never lived in, or stay in New York and start over in a job market where your specific role is actively being moved out. That's the human face of both headlines are true. The exodus is real for that person. Their job really is leaving, and the boom is real for the city. The tower's really going up, both, at the same time. And the gap between those two truths is exactly where the middle class of New York finance is quietly getting squeezed out of the picture. The billionaire has options. The tower has financing. The operations manager has a memo and a deadline. Now let me argue against my own tidy framing, because I don't want to hand you a paradox so clean it stops being honest. First, in fairness to the Exodus skeptics, a lot of the Wall Street is fleeing coverage is genuinely inflated. Some of those viral lists mix confirmed headquarters moves with mere filings, expansions, and anecdotal inquiries. A company opening a Dallas office while keeping New York gets counted as fleeing, which it isn't. If you're keeping score honestly, the confirmed full departures are a much shorter list than the headlines suggest, so the skeptics have a real point. Second, in fairness to the Exodus believers, New York's tax base is genuinely top-heavy and genuinely mobile, and even losing the back-office middle is a real fiscal problem. You don't need a billionaire to leave to feel it. You need 10,000 middle managers to. And the political direction of the city really has spooked a measurable number of firms, whatever you think of their politics. That's not nothing. Third, and this is the honest uncertainty, nobody actually knows how this nets out yet. It is entirely possible New York keeps its crown as the financial capital and hollows out its finance middle class. It's possible the towers get built in half fill. It's possible Florida's boom cools and some of this reverses. Anyone giving you a confident 5-year prediction is guessing in a suit. So here's the only claim I'll stand fully behind, the single headline version. Either one is a lie of omission. Wall Street is fleeing, ignores the cranes. Wall Street is doubling down, ignores the memos. The truth is a split, not a verdict. And it's moving in two directions at once because a modern firm is built to move in two directions at once. So put the two headlines back on the table. Wall Street is fleeing New York. Wall Street is buying New York. Both ran this year. Both are true. And the reason they don't cancel out is that they're describing different pieces of the same firm. The crown staying, the back office going, the tower rising, the operations memo landing on a middle-class desk in Queens. Here's what I want you to take out of this one. And it's bigger than finance. When a story has two loud sides and each one has a real evidence, the move isn't to pick the side that flatters what you already believe. The move is to ask what both sides are leaving out, because that blind spot is usually where the actual story is hiding. In this case, both sides are ignoring the exact same people, the middle-income workers who are neither fleeing to a mansion in Palm Beach nor sitting in the C-suite of a tower their firm just bought. They're just quietly getting relocated out of the story entirely. The billionaires stay. The skyline grows. And the part of Wall Street that a normal person could actually build a life on is the part slipping away, in a direction no headline is pointed. Tell me how you see it. If you work in or around New York finance, are you watching this split happen from the inside? The top staying? The middle moving? I'd rather hear 10 real accounts from people living it than read one more list of companies fleeing. Drop it below? That's the one for today. Look out for each other.